All right, welcome in. It is Monday morning. It is full court press. Guys, I took the liberty of tweaking today's show a little bit because we only have six games on the slate for today, but we've got a lot more tomorrow. And we're at the point where sportsbooks are putting up numbers for Tuesday a full day early for the bigger games. So in an effort to get you guys more games, we are going to do 2 Tuesday games today that there's already lines for. And then that'll leave us time on Tuesday to hit what is a much better slate on Tuesday. So welcome in. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I'm still on Twitter defending the Pete Carroll and the Raiders. For all the bad luck I had recently, I guess I can't complain anymore because I was on the Raiders yesterday. Improbable cover right there at the end. But let's get you guys in here. I'm gonna go to Brian Power first. We're gonna go to MSG. Great doubleheader in New York City tomorrow as part of the Jimmy V Classic. And let's start with the sort of night game first, with the bigger matchup first. Florida-UConn. BP, you've kind of had strong opinions on these two teams so far this year. Now they collide here on a neutral court, which we know is not neutral. We know it's all UConn fans. So talk to me about Florida-UConn Tuesday, but this game's already up at a lot of the legal spots ready for you to fire up.
Yeah, just real quick, I'll rant, whine, kvetch, complain about it later. Apologize to anyone who was on the 5% play yesterday on the Bills. We missed the cover by half a point. Of course, they had to taunt us at the end by thinking we could cover, but alas, it did not. But we dust ourselves off. It's a new week. We're already talking Tuesday. We're going to hit all Monday's games, but the big one on Tuesday, obviously UConn, Florida, Trigg. Yes, glad that you pay attention when I talk because I have been a little lower on these teams than the market. I guess I every time we talk about them, I guess I'm saying, I'm showing a little value on the other side here. Here's where I started. Okay, I look at before you even sent over the actual lines that are posted. I looked at KenPom. They made it a 3-point game, I believe. If it was a true neutral, I would have made it a 2-point game. And my thought was this line's opening higher than 3. And it has at 4.5. So I'm not surprised. MSG, you mentioned UConn's already played here. They've had a tremendous amount of success here. They certainly will be motivated. This is the team that ended their quest for the three-peat last year. In the second round of the NCAA tournament, Florida beats UConn. That was Florida. Well, no, I guess Houston. That one, Florida wasn't looking so good in either the actual championship game. But UConn gave them a hell of a run in the second round. Florida won by what? Was it by 2? Was that game? Was that a 2-point game? That was the side that was. So my thought is, who's betting Florida in this game? I feel we had a discussion about this last week where there was an underdog. I can't remember how the game's escaping. We were like, well, who's betting this team? I think UConn's going to be a popular choice tomorrow, guys. And what does that mean? Well, for me, it usually means I look at the other side. But this game is going to come down to one thing. Florida's 3-point shooting. They've been terrible from behind the arc. Terrible. Cost them against Duke. It's why they were in a big hole against Duke. Remember, they lost to Duke close. They had a chance to win, but they were down by what, 15? As many as 15 in that game. So UConn's defended the 3 well. My thought on this, it's kind of a weak take. It's certainly the opposite of a hot one. It's interesting. KenPom projects 152 points, which it would be a signal to the over. I believe the total is 145.5 right now as we're sitting at here on Monday morning. This game will only go over and Florida will only stay close if they are hitting their threes. If Florida's not hitting their threes, I don't see this game going over, and I don't see them obviously covering, let alone winning. So that's my take. If you think you have a good handle on Florida's 3-point variance, have at it. That's where this game is going to be decided.
Yeah, BP, and to that point, UConn's played 3 really solid offensive teams, tournament teams already. Arizona scored 71. Illinois scored 61 with that offense, and they were fully healthy in that game. KU scored 56, no Peterson, but you get the idea on UConn defense. Guys, I don't know. This is a very, very early projection, but I don't know that there's a better 1 through 9 in the country than what UConn's throwing out there right now. When you take into effect what the freshman Braylon Williams just did last game, I think he was the leading scorer, 17, 19 points. It's almost like having Liam McNeely never leave. And for Florida, we always start with the front line, right? Can you match up with their front line? That's the key here. UConn certainly matches up with the front line, and it's kind of wild. They could be, you could argue, let's say that they might be better. Question, I guess, for UConn is, do you go, if you're Dan Hurley, do you go with all three bigs? Do you play Caravan? Do you play Ryba? Do you play Terrace Reed all together, or do Terrace Reed and Ryba jam up the same space? I think that question holds the same for Florida, although they're a little more used to it. But the point guard situation here is great at UConn. The shooting guard situation is, and it's deep at every position, small forward, shooting guard. They got two guys that are all interchangeable at every single position. And you know what else? They got guys that can get to the rim. In college basketball, if you have guards that can get to where they want to go, when they want to go there, then it's a huge advantage. Florida's a good team, and we're harping early this season on their backcourt not being Walter Clayton. I think in that discussion, we lose the fact that they also had Elijah Martin and Will Richard, and Will Richard's getting starters minutes at Golden State right now. I mean, that threesome right there. Elijah Martin had some highlight dunks that were crazy. So they're probably going to get better as they go along, and they'll develop more continuity, but I don't know that it's there now. I do think it's there for UConn, both offensively and defensively. I would lay this price with UConn and MSG. Adam said it's going to be all UConn. They will travel. I don't know. MSG holds like 18,000. They'll put 15,000 Husky fans in that place without fail. So to me, I would lay the price. I think, Brian, you're probably on. I actually wish, or no, actually the reverse. I'm happy that the total is that high. I just listed off the defensive efforts UConn had against teams equally as good as Florida offensively. And those games got nowhere close to 151.5, nowhere near close. So probably a look at the under, but definitely a look at UConn here. I think they've both been through the rigors early this season, both played some really tough teams. But when I go personnel and start matching this thing up, UConn's every bit. They do what Florida does best just as well, and then they're better in the backcourt.
Real quick, Trigg. It's Monday morning. Little math mistake by yours truly that I just want to pick up because people in the comment section may already be yelling. Ken Palm has this projected at 147. I had it at 150. As soon as I saw, I was like, man, he's usually that. It's usually not that off this weekend. Or pardon me, Ken Palm's usually not that off on a total, and I was like, it's kind of weird. But no, he projects it at 147. And in
fact, I just did it wrong, Brian. I'm telling people bet under 151.5 with the number.
Well, no, because I had said 152, so 151. So yeah, so there we go.
You get the idea. UConn and under if you're me.
Yeah, we have lines for this game. 4.5 is what the sort of very popular books. I know we're trying not to say sportsbook names, but the ones that are most popular that are probably on your phone have 4.5 and 146, 145.5, 146 on the total. So it's hard to think that this is anything other than a UConn. If Joey Cheese were in the chat right now, he'd be like UConn by double digits. Like he wouldn't even allow us to think anything. And honestly, he'd probably be right. Last time he said that was the Illinois game, and it I believe that was also at MSG, and they sort of easily won that game. UConn. Their one loss this year, they didn't have Terrace Reed, and they got out-rebounded 39-19 by Arizona. That's probably the only way Florida wins this game or even covers. So to go back to Rob's point, like Hurley doesn't mess stuff like this up. I've said this a million times. Like one of his biggest strengths at UConn is he essentially retains his coaching staff every year. So it's like all these UConn assistants could go and take jobs like in the NEC or in the Patriot League or in the MAC. Like they would be, they would all get jobs instantly as head coaches, but they would rather stay at UConn because they have literally built, I mean, Rob, as you know, they call Stores the basketball capital of the world. They've literally built like a destination where it's like they're only going to leave for like an elite job at this point. And because of that, he's got this excellent coaching staff. And I trust Dan Hurley won't get it wrong, right? Like go back to the NCAA tournament last year. Dan Hurley had as good of a game plan for Florida as anyone did that whole tournament, and arguably should have. I mean, a couple shots fall in that game. Florida's not your national champs. Reed should play, and so to go back to your point, Rob, I do think they go big. That would be Florida's only path to victory here, in my opinion, is being able to dominate up front and win through their bigs. And so I think Hurley will do anything in his power to take that away. You probably look at Demery guarding Boogie Fland, and that's going to leave our guy, Princeton transfer Xavier Lee. Listen, if Xavier Lee can have a day and beat them, I think you tip your cap if you're UConn. I've said this since the beginning of the year. He's shown absolutely nothing. Even last year at Princeton, like I felt like he regressed a little bit last year from the Sweet 16 Princeton team when he was surrounded by better players. If Xavier Lee can go into the Garden and just like ball out and win, you got to tip your cap. I don't see how that happens. And so for that reason, I don't see how Florida covers. What do you think, BP?
Yeah. We talked about Florida's 3-point shooting, how woeful it's been. And you guys have both mentioned the offensive glass kind of being a path, really Florida's only path to victory here. And Rob mentioned, and you did too, Trigg, how it could be neutralized by UConn. UConn's one of the few teams in the front court that can neutralize it. Florida is number 4 in the country, guys. Just put numbers on this in offensive rebounding percentages. Offensive rebounding is how they got back in that game against Duke. Particularly in the second half, I think they had 13 second chance points in the second half alone. They out rebounded Duke by 11, including 22-11 on the offensive glass. You mentioned Lee. He's not even averaging double figures this year, is he? I mean, he had a horrible game against Duke, 1 for 10 from the field, and he is averaging now 8.4 points per game. And so that's another thing. I mean, can he step up? I mean, there's a lot. I mean, man, the more we talk about this, things almost have to line up perfectly for Florida. It feels like it's kind of scary how much we're writing them off.
Listen, like that is what Xavier Lee is. Like, not everyone can play up. Like, you can be, and I think like guys have to I think a lot of these mid-major guys need to like think twice before they like go and transfer to an SEC school, because they're more likely to, in my opinion, get exposed than they are to just become like Walter Clayton is not the norm, right? Like leaving Iona, but also like you kind of look at Walter Clayton and you're like, yeah, this guy could probably play at the next level. Like, you look at Xavier Lee, I mean, he looks like a high schooler a lot of times out there. Like, he's not very big. And it's like, it's one thing to dominate in the Ivy, but now you're playing in the SEC. It's just, I think he's exposed. And I think what you're seeing is what you're going to get from him all year. I don't think it gets better than that. So now, I would continue to fade. Yeah.
Just to reverse what you said about Xavier Lee, and if he has a big game offensively, so be it. I'd worry more. I mean, I would worry more about him on the defensive end against these penetrating UConn guards, because if Xavier Lee gets in foul trouble here, where are they going as far as ball handling is concerned? Florida, it's going to be a big deal. The UConn backcourt, the pair of point guards, are the leading free throw attempt guys on this team, 63 free throws combined. They'll get to the rim. And I don't know that Todd Golden's going to go to any zone against the UConn Huskies. So I don't know. I'd worry about Lee on both ends, tell you the truth. And if UConn can neutralize the front court. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this 4.5 elevates, guys. If you want to bet it now. You might be seeing 5.5 tomorrow.
I was just going to say that, I'm sure we'll just mention the line at least on tomorrow's show, Trigg. We'll just kind of come back to this. I'm very interested to see, because the way we're talking, the way the chat's talking, the way that I don't think we're, uncovering, any shocking viewpoints here, what we've been talking about. I think a lot of people are going to look at this matchup and assess it the same way. I think it does stand to reason that over the next 24 hours, UConn will take money. And I think Rob's point's well taken. If you like UConn, I would probably bet them sooner, much rather than later, because this line to me only goes up.
All right, let's go to Garth. We are going to rattle through the 6 Monday games. We our parlay, even though we're going to talk 2 Tuesday games today, we will find a parlay that's all entirely tonight. I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're going to do it. So we will get you a 3-teamer out of the 6 thrillers that are on the slate tonight. I was going to use this as the as today's feature. This is on SEC Network. So we'll start here for Garth. He says thoughts on Southern team total under 67.5 tonight. I'll go to Rob here for the total angle. I was tempted when this hit 22 to take Southern. I know BP would probably agree with that.
I was.
Reason being, Southern hasn't played in a while. And a lot of times with these SWAC schools that get hammered with like all the bye games and stuff, at this time of year, I start to not want to play them because they're like running ragged. It's like they're on their, 7th road trip I'll let you sort of hammer.
Yeah, we have team, and I was gonna say just real quick,
yeah,
and I'll let you go again. We have teams like that on today's slate.
Yes,
that are just probably like, please let this road trip end for the love of God.
Yeah, but Southern, they haven't played a Division I game since the 29th of November, and they actually beat Northwestern State in that game. That's actually what I consider to be a pretty good win for Southern. Then they played a non-board team. So really plenty of time to sort of rest, make sure guys are healthy for this game. Now, Rob, I don't know if they go into Austin and win, but 22 didn't seem like a terrible bet. Talk to Garth, though. He wants to know about the under and then anything you have on the side.
Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to knock out a lot of birds with one stone here.
Okay.
I'll start.
We've got quotes, don't we? We've got quotes here. When I was handicapping this game, I said Rob's got these guys. I said this. I said Rob is going to. I saw the quotes.
There's only one guy we're going to quote here, and that's Sean Miller.
Yeah.
And it might give you, to Garth's point here, looking at Southern team total under. If he has his way, that'll come true, Garth, because here's what he said. It's becoming a pattern with us. We're too easy to score on. We have to fix that. We have to be better. We have to just have more of an inner fight and toughness on that side of the ball to be able to defend the shot, challenge the shot, rebound the ball, defend the man in front of you. We're at a crossroads. You can't lose at home and be down by 25 or 30 in a big game early in the year with a great crowd and not feel like that's a problem. That's where we're at. I mean, go pick a SWAC team and try and straighten it out, right? I mean, that's what they're going to try and do. But I'll say this. I was shocked, guys, that this Texas team total was 87.5 consensus across the board. I mean, Texas has been in the 90s in more than a handful of games so far this year. Southern, in a couple of their defeats, gave up over 100 to teams that could score. It just seems like an ultimate beatdown here where Texas, as far as their offensive end is concerned, not the full game, but 90 doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility at all in this matchup. Adam just mentioned that Southern's resume, at least the win column, is built on JUCOs and NAIA teams. So not a lot to judge from there. I think that Southern, for the most part, because they play track meet style, it's 39th in adjusted offensive pace so far this season for Southern. If you're going to give Texas that many opportunities, and when Sean Miller starts quoting defense, honestly, I think you can calculate into your handicap some steals that lead to buckets, not turnovers, but steals where they poke the ball away and get out on the break, et cetera, defensive rebounding. So when I said I'm going to kill a few birds with one stone, I'll take the first pick of this parlay out of our huge cat litter pile that we have here to choose from. And I'll give you Texas offensively team total over 87.5 tonight. Whether or not 22 comes into play, I'm not sure, because they are that ragged defensively to start the season. And maybe the time off helps Southern. But yeah, these SWAC schedules are wild.
I think, I'm like you, Trigg, in that I thought the spread was a little too high, but I also would concur with, I think the better way to play this would be looking at a team total. Like you said, just, Sean Miller going off on his defense, the quotes Rob read, that had to do with the fact, Texas was just horrible against Virginia. They were down by as many as 27 in that game. They let the Hoos go 50% from three, 12 of 24. So decent volume that they shot 50% at, and then 38 points from Virginia's bench. Now, I don't think Southern's bench is particularly deep. So, That's I think that's the thing. So it's interesting that Garth was thinking Southern team total under, because to me, initially I was thinking, well, if you like Texas to bounce back, maybe that's the angle. But then Rob threw me the kind of the curveball there with Texas over its team total. So glad that he made a pick on this now that I don't have to. Although I'm going to scramble to pick another one.
You get the other 5 to choose from.
Yeah.
I see Bayou in the chat, and I know he's dead. So Southern is located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Forever, if you're wondering, and he's kind of our Louisiana plug right now. Bayou, he's on. I believe he went to Southeast Louisiana. He's always on these the smaller Louisiana schools. So what I would want to know about this game, which I think is very, very important, is Southern's got 2 guys that haven't played recently: Damari Jones and Rondé Hill, and neither of them have played in their last 2 games. The reason that's important is, to your point, Brian, Southern without those 2 is not very deep. And so, a game against Northwestern State, the depth is not going to be a huge deal, right? But like you're trying to play Texas, and then a Texas team where Sean Miller's like, hey, like we're going to go and play 40 minutes of hard basketball because we're pissed off that we just no-showed the Virginia game. And now you have to worry about playing them with 6 guys, or 6 guys that actually get minutes, because when you take Jones and Hill out of there, there's really not a ton of minutes outside of the starting 5. That actually probably, Garth, that's probably another reason for you to like your under. Southern may need to try to slow it down a little bit, just limit the number of possessions, and that's why I would really want to know the status of those 2. But the reason I like Southern plus the points here, they're probably going to win this conference. If you were to power rate out the SWAC right now, I got Southern 1 in what is a SWAC conference that's on the rise, right? We already saw Bethune-Cookman with a couple of really good results. I believe Southern had Washington dead to rights almost earlier this year. Ended up losing that game up in Seattle. But I believe, it went to double overtime. Took Washington to double OT. They were competitive with Marquette, although I'm not sure what you want to make of that at this point. Marquette hasn't been great, but the win, winning on the road at Northwestern State, believe Northwestern State won a big game this weekend in their conference. So I lean toward the points. I kind of missed if it was still 22, I may just say the hell with it. I'll take the 22 and have a little action for tonight. It's now back to 21, but we'll see where that goes throughout the day. There's only 6 games, so a lot of these games are bouncing back and forth today. But yeah, I do lean towards Southern. I'm not going to talk Rob off of he's probably right. Texas is probably going to do their absolute best to put as many points on the board as they can tonight. And I also don't really mind the under look for Southern, because they're trying to slow it down. Interesting game. BP, what do you got?
Texas has UConn on Friday too, so I don't know how that affects them. If they get up big in this game, they obviously want to work the kinks out. They want to build up some, Rob rattled off Miller's quotes. You got the big game on deck. You want to look good. I thought Texas in the first half. To me, if they're not covering early, they're not covering late. Maybe I don't know. But at the same time, I don't like playing favorites in the first half, because if you want all 40 minutes if you're on the superior side, right? So, that's funny. Somebody actually just mentioned Texas first half in the chat. But I don't know. How does that affect, for either of you? I'll just open the floor up. The UConn game being on deck, how does that affect, if at all, your handicap here? Because, I could see Texas maybe letting up a little bit at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I think to know Sean Miller, guys, and he's been a head coach long enough, I don't know that the foot would come off the pedal here. And I also would say that whatever he throws in there, let's say they end up playing 5 through 9, it's as good as what Southern's going to put on the floor. So even if it's neutralized at that point, in other words, I don't know that Southern's going to be able to do much at that point in time to close a gap if there is one. And I don't know they'd be able to do much to gain ground on a gap if there is one. If there is no gap, guys, they're going, if plus 21 comes into play, and let's say this is a 15-point game with 4 minutes left, starters aren't coming off the floor anyway. So I just think the pace that this game, and Adam mentioned maybe Southern shorthanded would try to slow it down. I'm just not a believer that an underdog can go into somebody else's building, a sizable underdog like this, and dictate pace for any length of time. Maybe a little bit, but Southern is what Southern is. They're going to run. Texas is going to run back because they're unafraid of this team. So hopefully 87.5. 88 points get us there, but I thought it should have been in the 90s somewhere.
I mean, listen, don't tell Southern they have no shot in this game. Like, they're going to show up and think that they can compete. Listen, they're all seniors and grad transfers. They've got a guy scoring that's averaging 22 points per game that can absolutely fill it up in Michael Jacobs. Their entire starting five is seniors. They've already played Arkansas. They've already played Marquette. They took Washington to double OT. Like, don't tell Southern, who's probably going to win their league. That's the other thing. Like, they might be 4-4 right now and like a 20-point dog. They're likely an NCAA tournament team. Like, they are probably, if you've watched like Jackson State and some of the other ones that are up in the mix there, like, they're the best of this group of SWAC teams that's all like considered to be relatively equal. So it's like, don't tell Southern they can't hang on the. It's still 0-0. Game starts 0-0. I wouldn't want Texas first half.
And Ken Palm backs you up with that, Trigg. If that makes you feel any better, or maybe it doesn't.
And I do think, to your point, Adam, that their ticket to a cover is to reach 70. Honestly, it's why I have a hard time at 67.5. I think that's their way to get there. Play their brand, get to 70, maybe lose 91-70, 90-70, and get a cover.
Yeah, and to Bayou's point, this is probably listen, I had it queued up, Southern plus 22. And the reason that I was like, man, do I really want to do that is not if they still are without Jones, and maybe those guys will play, because Jones and Hill, like, the new thing now is if you have guys that are a little bit, dealing with injuries or just not guys you want to risk, you don't play them against the non-board teams, right? If you're playing a non-D1 team, you just keep them out. So I'm not really, but they also missed, I believe, the Northwestern State game, or at least one of them did. That's my concern. If they had those two and they had an 8-man rotation, then going to Bayou's point, Southern would be able to push the pace, which is what they want to do. And if if the shots are falling, they're probably in this game. My only concern, the reason I haven't bet this yet, is they're still a little bit shorthanded. They're trying to do it with 5 or 6 guys, and then over 40 minutes, they just run out of gas, and suddenly they're down 20, and you're sweating out those final couple possessions, hoping the Texas walk-on dribbles off his foot so you can cover 22. So,
just real quick with the lay of the land and the SWAC, Trigg, Southern is the top-rated SWAC team at Ken Palm, number 200 in net rating. The only other SWAC team higher than 270 in net rating is Bethune-Cookman, who we've talked about before. After that, it's kind of a precipitous drop to the rest of the pack.
All right, let's move it along. There's another power conference team playing today. I need to be publicly shamed on this show. I bet Kansas State over the weekend. After all the shit I talked about that team,
I'm a little surprised
which I'm right about. Listen, I couldn't get over the fact that I thought Seton Hall was the perfect matchup for them. I really did. Like, team that doesn't, offensively isn't elite. Kansas State can shoot over them a little bit, negate some of their defensive edge. The game's in Manhattan, and Seton Hall just went and punched him in the mouth. Kansas State had no shot, no answer. I need Rob to co-sign on this, because I don't just give out team totals. That's not a Trigg type play, but there's been a pretty big move on the spread here. I saw someone in the chat say Kansas State's probably closer to 100 than 90 tonight. I very much agree with that. I think Kansas State can name their score tonight against Mississippi Valley State. I think they probably will. I would be shocked if Kansas State doesn't drop 100. And the reason why is, like, I still think this team sucks. Like, they're a bottom 5 team in that Big 12. Like, they're not a good basketball team, but they've got guys that can shoot the 3. They haven't made a 3 in like 3 games, but or 2 games. Bowling Green, though, is very good defensively, and Seton Hall just they will defend the crap out of you. And I think that really, like, PJ Haggerty looked like he wanted to cry on Saturday, like coming off when he had 1 point. Today, here's what's going to happen today. Mississippi Valley State plays a zone. It's like they will play zone for 40 minutes. And they essentially are going to go out. Kansas State, it's going to be shooting practice, because Mississippi Valley State's going to sit in their zone. and essentially just let them take threes. It's their only that's what they will do. I'm telling you that's what they will do. They have no other choice. And it's what they do every game anyway. So to me, Kansas State, part of the reason they haven't been able to make a shot is Bowling Green's a good defensive team. Seton Hall is a very good defensive team. Now the shots are going to be wide open. And I think there's going to be no end in sight. I think once they start falling, they're going to be like, this is fun. We remembered that the ball can go through the hoop and it's going to be a party and they're going to score 100. So unless Rob talks me off of it, my parlay leg will be Kansas State team total over at any number, as long as it's lower than 100.
Yeah. And first thing I'll say, Adam, is absolutely correct on the assessment of Kansas State. And the reason why when I looked at that Kansas State Seton Hall game, and I think we saw it just confirmed everything about Kansas State. And they're in the Big 12. To your point about them being bottom 5,
bottom 5 team.
They might be bottom 3 because in the Big 12, if you don't play defense, you don't win a game. In that conference in particular, it's all defense all the time, and they just have no desire to defend, period. And Seton Hall is tenacious. Kansas State is not. They don't, they're in a street fight. They're the guy running the other direction. And they're going to try and score their finesse. And against this team, I guess they could do it, right? The number is a hair bit. You're asking for 100 now, right? 96.5, 97, whatever it is.
I'll be shocked. It's probably going to be 110 or 120. I really think they could put 120 up tonight.
The other side doesn't
anything under 100 is low.
Not that Kansas State is ferocious on the boards, but they're going to get some of these long rebounds tonight and second, third chances to boot. So, I could see it. They're going to dictate pace. Mississippi Valley, real quick, guys. I've always said that rather than adjusted tempo, if you're just looking at analytics, what's better to look at is the average length of possession. And Mississippi Valley lets teams shoot the 9th fastest in the nation. And for KSU, that's a dream matchup to be able to just come down, launch, maybe board, score again. So there's no way I'm playing Kansas State under. And Mississippi Valley is a real good target to get to 100 with.
I want to go to Brian. What do you think the better bet is here? Laying what's now a bad number on Kansas State on the spread or the team total over?
I would take the team total over, to be honest with you, because now what's interesting is when you get into this territory of spread, I almost always show value on the underdog, which I hate. And I just wind up not playing any of them because you either play them all or you play none, and I choose the latter. And that's it. I actually don't show much value at all here on Mississippi Valley State, which would scare the hell out of them. Jerome Tang, by the way, Rob, he had a lot to say about his team after the loss to Seton Hall. He talked about the points off turnovers. That was really key. That was why Seton Hall was plus 15 in points on turnovers. Also, this is if Kansas State can they've got to figure out the charity stripe. They missed 20 free throws in that game. That's insane. So, that's an area, obviously, to get a team total. You would think. I mean, what's Kansas State at for the year? Let's just go real quick. Let me just look at their free throw shooting, because that is key. I mean, if Kansas State, they in terms of free throw, they're not a good free throw shooting team, but still, I mean, that was like an abhorrent effort against Seton Hall. So I don't know. Yeah, I would rather take the team total over than lay this number. And laying this number, it's just you're not going to be in the money probably until halfway through the second half. It's just not a bet I like making. Really.
BP, I never really lay it's not my style to lay these 30-point spreads. I'm actually furious at myself that I didn't just lay 31 on the opener, or even 33 after it was quickly bet up. In my head, I was like, this should probably be 38, 39, and it's pretty much there now. So I'm kind of kicking myself because that is a Kansas State at 34 or better is a bet I would absolutely love to have right now. So a little bit upset with myself. Bayou makes a good point. I forget you can do stuff like this on some of these, the books that will remain nameless on this show. He says you could honestly parlay the team total down and spread down to even money. Yeah, if you have a book, if you could do the same game parlay type stuff or prop builder or whatever you have on your book, and you can do that, that sounds pretty good. That's that, because they're basically the same thing. If you can get good numbers on both down to close to even money, that's another way to look at it. But I'm with Trevor. Game's going to be something like 103-61. You're probably good either way. If that's the way you want to go tonight. Okay, let's go to actually what I would consider probably the most interesting game on this slate is going to happen at the Palestra tonight. That's because that's a Penn team I'm very high on this year. I think that Fran McCaffrey is going to be very, very good in the Ivy sooner than later. However, he got dealt a tough blow this weekend. It looks like Ethan Roberts may miss considerable time. And one thing this Penn team lacks is depth. So BP, your hand is up. Talk to me a little bit about Penn Lafayette and what Roberts out of that lineup means to this game.
Well, yeah, I actually didn't know. And before the show, I said, I assume someone's out for Penn, Trigg, because I don't understand this line, the way it's moving. And then you talked about that before we went on the show. And it's a point because, I looked at Penn. What I had circled is this is a team that comes in. They failed to cover 3 in a row. They're at home. It's kind of a short number. I was like, okay, but this injury concern is very real. And the other thing too with Penn, Trigg, they've shot the lights out so far from 3. They're, I believe, like top 10 in the country right now from behind the arc. And it's at a very high percentage. You're talking about almost 42%. That's something you're not going to sustain over the long haul. So with the injury, likely 3-point regression, I'm just walking away from this game in general. I don't know. I knew something had to be up when I saw this number was way too generous. So no, thank you. I got nothing now.
Even without Roberts, they do have a trio that shoots 42% or better. All 3 guys, they're going to do what they do. And it's very possible, you look at what Penn puts up for points here, that this game could still get over the total. I think what gets lost in the shuffle a lot when a star offensive player is out is that it also affects, Adam mentioned, depth and defense. So the other side is probably going to score more than they normally would against Penn, which is not a good defensive team to begin with. It's not necessarily something that Fran McCaffrey has in the bag. It's generally outscored the opponent. I could almost see this game still getting over despite the injuries, guys, or the injury. Mm-hmm. Lafayette, somewhat weak schedule, but when you look at teams that can score a little bit, St. Joe's isn't even really a scoring team. 85 against Lafayette, Texas 97, Cornell 97. Cornell and Penn somewhat similar in the style that they'll play from an offensive brand. Monmouth 88. They give up a lot of points, and their games get up there in totals when they're against a team that plays this sort of offensive-minded basketball. So for me, I might still look at this total getting over. It's on my list. And it is interesting, real quick here, I'll say, to open at 153, know that Ethan Roberts isn't playing, and the total still sits at 151.5. It's only adjusted 1.5 points. Tells you all you really need to know. When you break this game down, it could be higher scoring for Lafayette. Let's just take a quick look at their team total. 73.5. To get 74 against Penn, which would be depth shy, is not really an issue. And then the other side gets there. So I could still see 151.5 being an overplay here.
Yeah. And listen, I could still see Penn being a play. Like I'll be perfectly honest. If I was running better, now I did go 2-0 yesterday. I have to stop the presses. I did go 2-0 college basketball, but if I was running better, I would just say to hell with it. I'll lay 5 with Penn.
It got down. One of the books was as low as 4.5, and I was looking at that. I'm like, you know what? Do I still just do it? Someone in the chat brought this up. I'm glad they did because I was going to bring it up and forgot. Lafayette and Ball State earlier this year played a game that probably made Dr. James Naismith, God rest his soul, wish he never hung the first peach basket. This was one of the worst shooting games, and it's one of three Lafayette wins this year. The teams combined were like 15% from 3. It was like almost like it was even lower than that. I think it was something like 4 for 40 or so. It was a 55-37 final. I think one of Lafayette's other wins was against a non-board team as well. So, this is not a team accustomed. you just look at the Lafayette side and you only have to lay a short number against a team like that, even without their leading scorer. I don't know. I guess it is Penn or pass. If the number gets lower, Trigg, I mean, it's going to tempt me. I'll say that right now. It's going to tempt me.
So I guess, like, again, the only reason I didn't play this when it hit 4.5, because I always had the presence of mind to be like, okay, got to play back at that move. That's too big of a move. Is because going into the season, I said, all right, Penn has no depth, but that trio of Roberts, TJ Power, and then Zanoni are really good. And so basically, Penn's got like 3 or 4 guys that are studs. Everyone else is a traffic cone. Like there's not much else that they're just out there, right? They're not really contributing to like the greater good. It's really just all like, if you've watched Penn, like, it's really like everything revolves around those 3. And that's what kind of keeps me off here is like Roberts is like the hub. He's the guy that was there last year. He's the guy that like Fran kind of like built the offense around. So to take him out, that's tough. With that being said, I don't know that Lafayette can really do anything about it. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the Patriot League. They were bad last year, but they still had Justin Vanderban, who was a 7-footer that like, sort of gave you like, he was a real Band-Aid for them at both ends of the floor. Cause it's like, you have this bad team, but you've got a 7-footer that can guard the rim and shoot a little bit. Now he's not there. Fran still plays no defense. That hasn't changed. So that might speak to like, why this total hasn't moved and why Rob likes the over. We look at games that are a little bit comparable. I bet Cornell earlier this year when they played Lafayette in this same price range. Lafayette gave up 97 points to a Cornell team that just is out there. They just chuck like that team. They're a less skilled version of what they were last year too, but they're just chucking shots up. Put up 97 against Lafayette, no problem. And I remember watching that game, and it was like, I just want to see if I can pull. Yeah, like Cornell just out rebounded them, and they're not even a great rebounding team. It's like, that's what I think you're going to see here. So this is one scenario where I don't think Roberts out is going to, like, I still make the number 9.5 with him out. I was at 12.5 with him in. So it's tempting. It's tempting, BP.
So I don't know. I guess check back. I'm guys. I don't know. I may play it later. I'm not ready to play it now, Penn. But I think the rules of the show, Trigg and Rob, are that I have to give out something to complete the 3.
Why don't you give out a parlay leg and we'll close.
Let's. I think that works. So let's do it now. Let's. And it's one of the games we haven't hit on. Let's go over 153 on South Carolina State, Charleston Southern. I think this is going to be an absolute track meet. Both of these teams play fast. You're talking top 85 in the country in adjusted tempo. Neither of them play any defense. And here are the keys, further keys to the matchup, guys. South Carolina State, they're going to get a break here. They're not going to have a lot of empty possessions, at least relative to what they normally do. Charleston Southern, guys, dead last in the country in forcing turnovers. So that's huge. For the South Carolina State side. Now, big for Charleston Southern is they're a much better, as most college basketball teams are, much better three-point shooting team at home. They're, as a matter of fact, their three-point shooting jumps 10% at home relative to where it is overall. So that's noteworthy. Also, in addition to the 3, where Charleston Southern can pick up some points, offensive glass. South Carolina State's one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the entire country. They're one of the just worst defensive teams in the country, period. So I look at this matchup. It's 2 up-tempo teams. Neither of them are worth a damn defensively. I think they're going to go up and down the court. Not a lot of stops, not a lot of empty possessions. As long as one of these 2 teams doesn't have an ice-cold night, then I see no reason why we don't get up and over the 153 on South Carolina State, Charleston Southern, my leg of the parlay to close things out.
I don't disagree with that. I thought about laying it with Charleston Southern, especially after, like, I do think there was some significant, like, market manipulation going on earlier since there's only 6 games. A lot of these games are, like, bouncing up 2 points, bet back down. Mm-hmm. Like, there's still 8.5s out there with Charleston Southern. Like, this is a pretty – they're a capable offensive team. I mean, they have I think it's Alon Sumler is still there from last year. Like they had better scorers last year on the Charleston Southern roster, but he was one of them, and he's still there. Like he'll be the best player on the floor. Feels a little square to be like, well, let's just lay it against the 0-9 team. But it's hard to believe South Carolina State keeps us within single digits. And that's basically what you're asking them to do if you were to take South Carolina State. So I would lay the 8.5. 8.5 is a good number for Charleston Southern.
We talked about SWAC also applies the MEAC, where South Carolina State's from. These road trips. South Carolina State, just for those who haven't been following, they're 0-9. 8 of those games have been played on the road. This will be their 5th straight road game. They've gone South Dakota, Missouri, Winthrop, Bethune-Cookman. They've been just annihilated in each of the last 3. You have to wonder, and again, I think it speaks well to not only what you just said, Trigg, about maybe wanting to lay it, but to my play on the over. You have to wonder what South Carolina State has left in the tank, and where does that affect you, Rob, defensively, right? I think we're going to see tired legs from them. I just don't think we see a lot of defense in a fifth straight road game from a bad team that is bad defensively to begin with.
Yeah, and I think it was it was Patrick maybe that was on the team last year that's no longer there. But as Keith points out in the chat, Bryson Blaine is awesome. Like I think he's averaging like 21 points a game. So they've replaced the scoring from last year. Like I actually think they're going to be better than a lot of people think once they get into conference play. I think they're going to surprise some folks in the Big South. So again, they've never been a team I'm dying to like lay 8.5 with, but I think this is one scenario where they're probably the right side laying a big number. Let's go. So 2 more. Let's talk about, this one definitely deserves to be discussed. Incarnate Word New Orleans is a Southland Conference game. I have talked about how much I like this Incarnate Word team. Oh, there's your Penn money, Brian. Back up to 6.5, just like that.
Oh,
again, like there's still, I don't think there's no revelation there. Like they're still going to be without Ethan Roberts, but I do think that the opener was probably more appropriate there.
Who's listening to us?
Incarnate Word, listen, Incarnate Word is really good. Like I gave them out a week ago on this show as an 11-point underdog against McNeese State. They won the game outright. That was a client play for me. The problem is they're on the road still, and they did the Louisiana road trip in conference, which was I think they may have played Northwestern State the other day and lost that game, and now they've got to play New Orleans. Yes, they lost. Oh, I'm sorry, Nichols.
Just Nichols.
Still a Louisiana team. So they lose to Nichols. Not the easiest road trip, having to go play Saturday and Monday. And like New Orleans is a team that I think all the priors for them were out of whack because of like the game throwing last year. And now, of course, they've got the influx of resources from Master P. We always get a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah, we do.
But they've been really good. Like my number kind of comes out right here on pick. Like I love this Incarnate Word team. I don't know if I want to play against New Orleans on the road. That's my sort of conundrum with this game. Does anyone have anything to add? Incarnate Word New Orleans.
I'd say quick, Adam, because I'm a bounce back type of guy, and not that Incarnate Word is the best 3-point shooting team in the land, but they're 1 of 14 the other day against Nichols, and 1 of 14 is hard to do. So you would expect a little bit of an increase there. In New Orleans, I'm just trying to look it up now because that schedule that they've played is insane. Johnny Jones of Texas Southern is usually the kingpin of playing these ridiculous non-conference schedules where he just gets his team battered so that they're ready to play the SWAC. And when that time comes, when conference time comes, they're generally in the mix in some way, shape, or form. For New Orleans, strength of schedule overall in the nation, non-conference, it's the 7th toughest in the land. Overall, the 14th toughest schedule in the land so far. So they're more than battle tested. They've seen whatever Incarnate Word has. New Orleans has already seen tenfold. I think this team is prepping to make a Southland run. I think I said SWAC earlier. Well, Johnny Jones in the SWAC. This is Southland New Orleans. They're prepping to make a Southland run here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get this win here. But like you, that game against McNeese, because McNeese had been blowing people out in that weight class, and Incarnate Word really went wire to wire in that game. So it makes the decision tough, but I'd probably lean a little bit to UNO here. Just based off of what they've played so far this year. I think they're ready and prepped for a team like this.
Just a couple things real quick. Number one, Bayou. Why did Nichols change their name from Nichols State? That's bothered me for several years. I don't there's a lot of changes. I'm like, oh, okay, that whatever. I get it, whatever. It's time to live. But Nichols just dropping the state is very odd to me. And then on a more serious note, Rob brings up New Orleans' schedule. They played 8 straight on the road to open the year, and then they lose the home opener to Houston Christian. Situationally, I say that, I speak that into the air, and I say they're going to be fired up here. You lost the first one at home. This is a big deal. I don't know. I think situationally, I lean the home team as well. I made the game a pick 'em, so I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. I just think that this is a big one for the privateers.
Can I say real quick, guys, and I don't want to correlate college basketball to NBA basketball, but general rule of thumb, a handicapping adage with the NBA is when you come off of a long road trip, you don't want to play that team first game back home. They're back home. They're back to comfortable. They're in college. They're probably going to see their girlfriends, et cetera, et cetera. The mind isn't on Houston Christian, as much as it should be. Here it probably will be, Bryce. Second time, I think you probably get a little more focus out of UNO.
Yeah, especially, and you got Houston on deck, I believe, for New Orleans, which, spoiler alert, New Orleans probably is not going to win that game. So they may want to build their confidence up a little bit here, even though it won't be easy.
And maybe we should sell Houston Christian short, Adam. I mean, Houston Christian might not be a bad team in that league this year.
Yeah, you were talking about the lack of 3-point shooting for Incarnate Word in the game over the weekend. Like, I mean, that is how you want to play Incarnate Word. Like, you want them to shoot threes because, like, they prefer to go off the dribble. Like, Taj Tedeschi is the guy that I talked about that transferred there. Canisius guy. Then he went to Cleveland State. Cleveland State coach leaves for North Texas. He decides to go find a new home, third different school in 4 years down at Incarnate Word. But that team doesn't want to just be chucking threes. They want him going off the dribble, Jordan Pike getting in, kind of getting in the lane and creating, Bailey. Like, they're all guys that are probably better served taking you off the dribble, trying to get to the hoop. So the fact that, Nichols was able to force him into some threes is great. New Orleans does have some bigger bodies that they can, I saw they finally started playing the 7-4 transfer from Oral Roberts. I believe he's now played in like 4 games for them. So, you can deny the rim a little bit there. And they have some athletes. Buckley and Benson are the 2 best players on this team. If their guards can just defend the Incarnate Word guards a little bit, turn them into like a kick 3 type team, like that's a recipe where they could potentially win the game. Very interesting game. I don't know if I can get involved either way there. That's going to be a good one.
One left.
All right. One left. I don't know if we'll, we don't need to get to more Tuesday stuff today because there is a Tuesday show. So we might as well just finish out the Monday slate and then recap the parlay.
Sure.
So the final game is Grambling Southern Miss. Brian, is this where you were going to kind of bring up some scheduling stuff? This is another SWAC school in Grambling that's played a lot of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, well, we've talked about South Carolina State so far. We just talked about New Orleans, and then with Grambling, let's bring up the schedule here real quick. They have played. This will be their 5th straight road game as well. Now, there's been some time that goes back all the way to November 18th. They played San Diego, Cal Baptist. That might have been a MT. Was that an MTE or were those true road games here? I don't have that up actually. Unfortunately, hold on. I can bring that up real quick though. Grambling. No, those were all true road games. San Diego, Cal Baptist, UC. So they go out to the West Coast for 3 games. Then they kind of come back a little closer to home against Tulane. Gave it all they could in a 2-point loss. Now you're against Southern Miss. And this is I believe, a revenge-minded Southern Miss team. Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong. They lost to Grambling, earlier in the year. Yes. So
little home and home here, Brian. They're going home and home.
Yeah, what an interesting spot. I knew I had this written down. Sorry, I put it away, the notes that I had taken earlier in the game. But what an interesting, you don't see this very often. An in-season revenge spot here, doing a home and home in the month of December. I'd lean Southern Miss, but the number, I mean, we're up to 7.5 now. I don't know if I necessarily want to lay it. It was Grambling -2 for the first being they covered. So 7.5 feels like an adjustment. Maybe I say an over adjustment. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Just looking, that's an interesting loss, guys. It's not like it was 3rd and 4 days, like a tournament style game. It's not like they were travel weary or anything, because that Grambling State game is spaced out with 4 days prior, next game 5 days after. There was no there's nothing there. And Grambling still beat Southern Miss. And on the other end, it's a little bit confusing because Southern Miss has actually got some decent wins here that are above Grambling State's weight class. So I think the revenge angle well taken here. Southern Miss likely remembers that in that particular game, guys, just to go through some numbers, 25% from 3, only 42% from 2. Grambling shot lights out for what it's worth overall. 27 of 50, guys, better than 50% from the field. So I think you probably get a little bit of payback here from the Southern Miss side. Their results are too good. That's just a quirky result in my mind. Looking at it now, that probably gets rectified here by Southern Miss. Interesting that, I don't know, Southern Miss pay Grambling to come there and then Grambling pay Southern Miss back to go there. That's kind of a crazy home and home.
Yeah, it's something that usually you'll see it from some of these like schools that are in very remote parts of the country, like UTEP and New Mexico State did this for a lot of years.
That's right. That's right.
Where they would play a home and home. It's just because it's hard to get teams to come out to play you. So I wonder if Southern Miss did this so they didn't have to cut Grambling a check and they kind of gave them a home game, because it's hard to. It's Penn State and New Haven are kind of doing that. That's why Penn State went to New Haven to play. So they didn't have to pay. I don't know why Penn State can't write a check at this point. Maybe they're just still paying James Franklin. I don't know. But I think that's also, and Grambling will take that because Grambling obviously is going to have a hard time getting home games. And it's nice to play a home game every once in a while. My number was right sort of in this range. So I didn't show much of an edge here, but it's hard to believe for me that this game is so drastically different than that first game. Maybe Southern Miss bounces back and gets the win, but it still feels like a kind of a competitive game to me. Now, you can look at the schedule, and this is an awful, so I played Samford last night, and part of the reason I made that play was Cornell was in their 4th road game in 8 days, and also it was this long stretch that they finally had a big break after the Samford game. I thought they might run out of gas some point. They did. That's kind of the position that Grambling is in right here, where it's San Diego, Cal Baptist. They went to California. They went to played Tulane to a 3-point game the other night. Now they're playing their 5th road game since Thanksgiving weekend. And they've got 10 days off after this. So is this you know what I mean? Do you get this? Is this the point where if they go behind, it's almost man, we really need that 10 days off and they just kind of get smashed? That's the concern. But nothing basketball wise makes me think that Southern Miss just wins this game by double digits. So I would probably lean toward the dog, although, Bayou saying, yeah, after all the Grambling road games, they get 10 days off. They might, that could be, this could be a Grambling first half, Southern Miss second half type deal. Interesting game. Tough to figure that one out, in my opinion.
Hey guys, real quick here. I know we're pressed on time here, but the total came out a little bit shy. I mean, they play one time, they hit 145. Total comes out in the high 130s, gets bet up. It's still only at 42.5. You go through their schedules, just weed out the non-Division I teams. And both sides are 5-2 above this particular number, 142.5, 10-4 combined, 71% of the time these teams are getting over this number. So maybe the early money was right. Maybe the early money saw a little bit of value since the first game hit 75, 70, 145. And that was with Southern Miss horrific shooting. Maybe Grambling's numbers come down a little bit, but you have to think Southern Misses go up a little bit in this game. Maybe we get the same type of total. Maybe that's a play here as well.
All right, let's call it. It's just about the hour mark. Rob, what is that Kansas State team total over so I can appropriately read it off here?
I think I had it earlier at 96.5, but let's get it correct right now. It shows. Oh, wow, Adam. They bet it even harder now. Well, let me get you a consensus.
No, I see a 96.5.
You got it, bro? Yeah.
Yep. I see a 96.5.
All right, we're going to roll with 96.5. Shop around. There's going to be 100 points in that game. I'm not really worried about that. But by just Kansas State. So I'm going to go my parlay like Kansas State team total over 96.5. Rob Veno's going to go Texas team total over 87.5. And Brian Power says over South Carolina State, Charleston Southern over 153.5. It looks like there's the sort of standard right now. We need points tonight, boys.
Yeah, I was just thinking that
tonight. So let's fill up the stat sheet. Start the week off with a nice 3-teamer. We will be back tomorrow. We also hit, if you missed the beginning of the show, we hit the UConn Florida game to start the show. So check that out. That's already offered at sportsbooks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Add a comment while if you want to watch the replay. It all helps. And we'll see you back here in the morning for more Full Court Press. Take care, everyone.